And now let's move from drilling a hole in the planet to, metaphorically, drilling a hole in one's brain, because that's what education in the US state of Florida is beginning to sound like. It's the home state of the two top Republican presidential candidates, former US President Donald Trump, who moved there a few years ago, and Ron DeSantis, who's also the governor of Florida. Now, DeSantis is on the war path against common sense, it seems. I say this because of the state's new school curriculum and how the history of slavery will be taught in the US now. In Florida, teachers will have to teach students about the supposed benefits of slavery. Yes, benefits of slavery and how it helped slaves. We're not making this up. Here's a report.
Florida governor and U.S. Republican Party presidential candidate Ron DeSantis had once said, "Florida is where woke goes to die." But it seems like common sense is also meeting the same fate. And not just common sense, educational honesty and your conscience as well. Here's why. What do you usually think about when someone mentions slavery in the US? Millions of people from Africa forcibly brought to American shores. People brought in chains to work on plantations owned by white colonizers. Millions of deaths, rapes, and crimes against humanity. How people were robbed of their humanity and how they became the property of colonists. That's what actually happened. But according to Florida's Board of Education, it's not enough to know that and understand the horrors of slavery. No, they think you should also know about slavery's not often discussed benefits. They want students to know about, and I quote, how slaves developed skills which, in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit. We're not making this up. That's a part of the state's new curriculum. It's part of the section describing the work slaves did. You know, the unpaid labor they were forced to do under the threat of beating, starvation, and death. Things like picking cotton in the scorching sun, or being forced to build a plantation owner's house, or sweep the colonists' floors while they made a fortune on the backs of slave labor. Yes, Florida wants its students to know how all of these atrocities were skill development programs for the slaves. They apparently want students to get the full picture. Let's think about this from the perspective of an Indian urban legend. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan allegedly chopped off the hands of the workers who built the iconic Taj Mahal. The myth goes that this was to stop them building anything as beautiful ever again. It's a legend that's used to highlight the horrors of unchecked power. Now imagine if someone narrating this story then went on to describe how the laborers also benefited from the act. That cutting off their hands led to them learning to write with their feet or with quills in their mouths. How it forced the laborers to develop a unique new skill that may have been used elsewhere. Does that not sound absurd and ridiculous and downright disrespectful to those who have suffered? Which begs the question, what is Florida trying to do? There's also more in the new curriculum which seems like the state trying to justify slavery. The curriculum says students need to learn about slavery in other parts of the world. It talks about slave markets in Muslim countries, slavery in the Americas before European colonization, and even slavery in Asia. The Asian portion specifically mentions a law code from 4,000 years ago and the Indian caste system. All of this will go into showing students that slavery wasn't just an American phenomenon. Which it wasn't. Slavery has existed throughout human history. It's a fact. But to indulge in the kind of whataboutery Florida wants to peddle is to deny the sheer scale of the transatlantic slave trade. It's an insult to the memories of the millions who lost their lives as slaves. So why is Florida doing this? The simple answer is politics. It seems Ron DeSantis wants to take a leaf out of North Korea's book. Brainwash children by teaching them a warped version of history. Remove their capacity for critical thinking by feeding them sanitized and incomplete information. With about 86% of Florida students subjected to this curriculum in public schools, DeSantis may just succeed in muddying the waters of history and the minds of children. Last year, he brought in a law called the Stop Woke Act. It seeks to ensure that no child feels guilt or anguish or psychological distress during lessons on topics like slavery in America. The new curriculum is just an extension of this war on common sense. Politicians should be forced to stay away from education. They will always have a motive when deciding what the public should be taught. So politicians should leave it to the professors, because subjects like slavery need nuance that forces us to confront the mistakes and horrors of our past while moving towards a brighter future. Because you know the old adage, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.